Tonight, our guest, S.A. Cosby. We are discussing his book, Blacktop Wasteland. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's a little bit of a glare on my end. And tell us about yourself, the backdrop of this book, and what is this all about, Blacktop Wasteland?
All right. I am S.A. Cosby, Sean Cosby. I'm a writer from southeastern Virginia. I was born and raised in Virginia in the South. So Virginia is my heart and my home. Blacktop Wasteland is a book I wrote. Ostensibly, it's about a man, Beauregard Bug Montage, African-American man who's an auto mechanic, owns his own shop. And as the book opens, he's facing several serious financial difficulty. His mother is about to be kicked out of a long-term care facility. His daughter from a previous relationship wants tuition to go to college. He's married, currently has 2 children who also need all the things that 2 young boys growing up need. And he's also about to lose his business. He's behind on his rent for his building because a new auto mechanic shop opened up in town. And so he's facing several different obstacles. The thing that makes the story interesting is that before he was a auto mechanic, Bug was a legendary getaway driver, much like his father before him. And so against his better judgment and against the wishes of most everybody in his life that cares about him, he takes a one last job to secure some financial security. And unfortunately, as things are wont to do in books and movies like this, things go awry. So that's the surface plot. But what I was writing about on a personal level was the idea of identity. Who are we? Are we who we want to be, or are we who we're destined to be? And I'm writing about masculinity and both tragic and toxic and positive masculinity. What it means to be a man, what it means to be a Black man in the South today, not 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but right now in modern times, and how that affects the way we're perceived and the way we perceive others. And so I took all of that and tried to mix it up into a nice big old stew in a book called Blacktop Wasteland.
You did well. Okay, it was edgy for me, but yet I'm used to that type of language. I'm used to things happening. I'm a Chicagoan, and that rough, edgy street type thing. And I did see, like, I want you to tell us some of the characters, because I saw his wife, Kia, and if I don't do those names right, please let me know. And I was calling Bo, I was calling him Montage.
Either way is fine.
Okay, good. So Kia, I like their relationship. She's one of those ride or die girls, and just hung on to her man, and just in her own way, she saw the greatness in him. I would say she really saw something great, although he was kind of like wanted to be like his father. I also saw that being as some type of a father void. He imagined and created his father to be what he wanted to be, but they'll hear a little down the road how Ella, his mother, really just pull the covers off of who his dad really is. But let's talk about those characters. Let's talk about Kia. Let's talk about Ariel, his daughter. Just give us a little bit piece by piece.
Yeah, so Bug is married, as the book begins, to his longtime love, Kia. And Kia is the one person in the book who isn't afraid of him because she loves him. She's not intimidated by him. She loves him with her everything in her whole being. But at the same time, she's the one person that keeps him honest. She doesn't let him get away with anything. And he respects her for that, and he loves her for that. But he's also, I think, a character that is, he has a bit of hubris, and he thinks that he can fix anything, whether it's a car, whether it's a heist, whether it's his life. And he doesn't, as a lot of men are unfortunately want to do, he doesn't really open up to her as much as he should. And she loves him, and she wants that communication. She needs that communication, but she doesn't let him get away with stuff. Like I said, she holds him accountable for who he is, as a husband, as a father, and a man that she cares about. And so, and then, his daughter Ariel is the daughter he had before he got with Kia from a previous relationship. They're estranged, but he loves her just as much as he loves his two boys, Javon and Darren. And he's struggling very hard to be the type of father that his father wasn't. You know, I think he does have this sort of these father issues, daddy issues, if you will, and he does create this sort of image of his father, Anthony Ant Montage. But I think the truth about Anthony is somewhere in the middle. I think it's between what his mother, Ella, who's a very formidable character in her own right, it's between what she remembers and the way she experienced it and the way Bug wants to remember. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. You know, and as the book opens, this isn't a spoiler, Anthony isn't there. He's disappeared many years ago after a tragic incident. So Bug is struggling. He's a man trying to find his way. And unfortunately, I think like a lot of guys, well, like a lot of people I grew up with his way, he feels it's easier to be a heist man, to be a getaway driver, to embrace the outlaw in himself. You know, there's a scene early on in the book. There's a very important character that we haven't talked about. His car. He has a 71 Plymouth Duster that belonged to his father, souped up, you know, get up and go cars, we like to call it down here. And he loved that car. You know, that car is a symbol of his connection to his father. But early on in the book, his wife, Kia, rightly so, tells him, she's like, you know, if you sell that car, you put so much work into it, you could get $25,000. We'd be able to solve a lot of our problems. And he knows she's right, but again, he's not able to let go. And that's also a theme of the book is learning to let go of the past, learning to let go and move forward and live in the present. You know, don't make your pain, don't make your inner turmoil or your soul a casket for your pain. Let that stuff go. And so that's a large part of the book too. But as you said, also, there are other characters. There's a couple of good old boy brothers, Ronnie and Reggie Sessions, that are a couple of good old boys that Bug knows. He doesn't trust them, but he feels like they're his only option now to get the money that he needs, you know. And I think, you know, everybody can identify with me in dire straits financially. And so there are other characters in the book. There's a villain who shows up pretty late in the book, Lazy Mother's Ball, who's a redneck mountain crime boss. And so all these characters, I think one of the things that I tried to do in the book, and Kia understands Bug and she appreciates him and she knows how formidable he is. But everybody else in the book always underestimates him. And I think for me as a writer, I wanted to kind of express that idea that a lot of times even people who say they're your friends, if you're an African-American person, they have preconceived subconscious notions about you. And so everybody that Bug encounters in the book, they underestimate him. They never know how actually smart and intelligent and dangerous he is. And Kia is the one person that always understands that and appreciates that. But at the same time, again, she holds him accountable in a way different from his mother. I think his mother and they share so much pain about his father, about her husband, Anthony. And it's hard sometimes, you know, pain is sometimes like being yoked together or being chained together. And it's hard sometimes to deal with that chain. And so instead of trying to break the chain, you try to cut the other person's arm off. And I think for him and his mother, a lot of that was this pain. They both loved his father in different ways. And it was hard for them to communicate about that loss and that grief and that abandonment. And so he's got a lot of complex relationships in the book. But at the same time, I try to inject a lot of action, a lot of humor, a lot of intensity into the book. I wanted to talk about a lot of different things, but at the same time, I realized that, you know, nobody wants a 300-page sermon. And so you have to put a little honey on the medicine to make it go down. And so, and also I'm a fan of action-driven stories. I grew up with we lived in a house with my grandparents. My mom and dad separated when I was young, much like Bug. And so I grew up in my grandparents' house. And my grandfather loved action movies. He loved all those movies from the 70s, Superfly and Shaft, and also like the Burt Reynolds movies like Gator and White Lightning and all those movies. And so that sense of adventure, that sense of action has always been paramount to me as a writer. I've always wanted to inject that into my story. So you can have all of that, and people who can read the book can read the book just for that. But then there's this subtext where we're talking about masculinity, about poverty, about being what it means to be a man in a modern society, and where you have to be in touch with your feelings. And that's not a buzzword. I think a lot of Bug's problems come from the fact it's difficult for him, as smart as he is, it's difficult for him to communicate.
Yeah, and I saw that in, we have Booney in there. Now, is Booney a friend of the family, or is Booney Anthony Bo's brother, or are they related in any kind of way? Because Booney knew a lot about his dad, so I figured he was in the circle with him, or he was a close relative. And so there was a lot of stuff, you know, that he, you know, that he knew.
Booney was his father's best friend. He's Bug's godfather to a certain in a certain way. They're not blood related, but he was as much a brother to Bug's father as anybody was. And he loves Bug. You know, he's like an uncle to Bug, and he cares about him. And you know, he doesn't want him to go down this path that his father went down. And he's also constantly trying to talk him out of these plans that he's made. Now, once he makes the plans, once the ball gets rolling, you know, he'll do anything he can to help Bug because he loves him. But he's also the one that, you know, again, to a lesser extent than Kia, calls him out on some of his BS and holds him accountable. You know?
So what is it that Kia doesn't like about Booney, though? What is it that she doesn't like about him? Kia, when he wants to go, I'm sorry, when he wants to go, you know, and see him, and I guess more that we're talking is, it's probably more like she wants him to be the man that he wants, that, you know, he could be, that stable man that he wants to be. But then there's sometime when she say, oh, you go in the boons, I know you go in the boonies, you know, and it's like she doesn't want him to, I guess, get in that light, or not so much borrow that money. It is something about her, to me, as a reader, that there's something, a line she don't want him to cross too much with Booney. So, you know.
Yeah, I think for her, Booney represents the other side of Bug, the outlaw side, you know, because he used to be Bug's contact when he needed a job for like driving, when he would hook him up with crews and heist jobs. And so, you know, as the book opens, you know, he's left that behind. And Booney actually referenced that when he talks to him. He's like, I thought you were out. I thought you were done. And so on one side, Kia looks at Booney as, oh, you're going back into that life. But she doesn't know that Booney is actually trying to talk him out of it. So they both want the same things, but they don't talk to each other that much. So I don't think she dislikes Booney. I think she dislikes what Booney represents for Bug. And but you know, Bug ultimately makes his own decisions, good or bad. He makes his own decisions, and I think that was one of the things that I really enjoyed in a way writing him, was that he is someone who stands on his convictions. You know, he does. It takes a while, but he accepts responsibility for his mistakes. I think he's like a lot of tragic heroes, that he has a little bit too much arrogance, that he thinks that he can fix everything. Like I said previously, he thinks that he can make everything all right, but there are certain things that are beyond his control. And so the fact that he has this sort of arrogance is what brings a lot of tragedy into his life, you know, and ultimately it forces him to confront some things about himself that he hasn't been able to previously.
Yeah, I see that there's a dynamic between his mother Ella and then Kia. It's like she liked Kia because she knows that she brings the best out of her son, but then she feels kind of, to me as a reader, I would say she feels kind of offish, like it seems like she just don't like her at all. But you do kind of see those different things that she kind of cared for, but you also dealt with some colorism as well. You describe his mom, how beautiful she is, and she is, I forgot what racial background, but you describe her, and it's almost like, to me as a reader, I'll go there again, it's almost like I felt like she felt that she was not Black enough to be Black and not white enough to be respected as a white, but at the same time, she would tell, and it also tell how his dad dark with the blue eyes, and they had that. And then I see that too, just going back a little bit step with Ariel, you know, you did give a little bit of how her family did not like that interracial thing with them. So I caught that. So you do deal with some colorism.
There's a lot of like racial subtext in the book, a lot of racial tones and themes that are under the surface that I didn't talk about immediately. I wanted to kind of pepper those in there. You know, for his mom, you know, where I come from, Virginia, there's a lot of colorism. There's a lot of situations where, you know, people are treated differently depending on how dark a shade they are. And, you know, there's a line in the book where Beauregard reminisces about his mother. You know, she had a way of making people do what she wanted them to do, you know, because she was beautiful, because she had this, like you said, this very interesting mixed ethnicity. At the same time, when you talk about his daughter Ariel, her family just hates Bug, hates him. You know, from the grandmama all the way down to the mama to her uncles, they can't stand him, but he's still her father, and they can't change that. You know, one of my favorite scenes in the book, and it actually, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make it in the movie, but one of my favorite scenes in the book is after Bug has done one of the heists, because there's multiple heists in the book, and he goes to Ariel to give her the money, and how they sit on the hood of the car, and he's just sitting there, and he tells her, you know, you need to leave this place. You know, your star is too bright to shine in these dull skies. And how he finally, you know, he turns to her, he's like, you know, I love you, and she waits a minute and waits a minute and waits a minute, and then she's like, you know, I love you too, because you're my daddy. And so, you know, there's this bond, regardless of what her mama, her uncles and aunts and grandmamas think. You know, he's always going to be her daddy. And and I think I wanted him to have a healthier relationship with her and his boys. You know, there's scenes where he talks to his boys about, you know, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a Black man. And I wanted him to have a much healthier relationship with his children than he had with his father. And as you noted, he does put his father on this pedestal. He creates this false image of his dad, because that's the only way he can deal with him being gone. And it's not till, I'm not giving anything away, but it's not till the end of the book that he really confronts that. He really deals with it. And that's hard. As a son who had an estranged relationship with my father for a long time, I'm very happy to say that we've repaired that relationship. But as a son who experienced that, it's what you do. It's how you process, you know, and when you get older, I can only speak for myself. So when I got older, though, and I talked to my dad, we actually were able to have, you know, reasonable conversations. You know, you learn that there's a lot of complexity to everybody's story, you know, and so I wanted Bug to confront those issues, those truths. That's hard, and it's hard. It is very difficult. And I don't speak just from experience, but from other friends of mine who have been through similar situations. But I don't think you can grow as a person until you rip that Band-Aid off. You've got to deal with it. Yeah.
Miss Ella, hot buttered, hot spicy woman. I really liked her. She was hilarious. I loved her in that, you know, when he gets that phone call about, you know, she doesn't have the money and you know, what is it? And that phone call was very raw and very true. You're like, what is going on? And did she burn up something? Did she do this? Did she do, you know, he knows she's a handful. But what I like that she said that got me, I don't want to give it away, but when they had that conversation and he took care of her, and they had that conversation, and she said, don't act like you like me. In fact, when you get into church, don't even act like you like me. Just burn me up. I was like,
yeah, and you know, the thing about Ella is, the thing about Ella is that, you know, for all of her humor and her spiciness and her assertiveness, you know, she's hurting too. She misses Anthony, you know. Anthony was the love of her life. You know, that was her man. He was the only person who could stand up to her, and she liked that. You know, and so when he disappeared, and I intentionally leave that vague because I want the reader to make their own decision about that. But it broke something in her. It did something to her, and so the conversation toward the end of the book that he and Ella had, that Bug and Ella had, where he, you know, I don't think I'm giving anything away, but he tells her, he's like, you know, you could be mean as a snake, but you're my mama and I love you. He kisses her on the forehead. You know, that's the way they communicate. And it doesn't always look healthy to people from the outside, but that's the way they communicate. That works for them. And you know, and like I had a reader send me an email about it, and it was like, I don't think Bug likes his mama. I said, you know, he loves his mama. He knows she's difficult, but part of the reason he's doing the things he's doing is to take care of her. He knows that he can't take care of her at home, and he wants the best for her. And again, just hard for him to communicate. You know, it's hard for him to articulate those feelings. And so he's the type of person, his love language is, here's the money to keep you safe. You know, here's the money to pay the bills. It's hard for him to say, I love you and I'm worried about you. And so I know a lot of men like that. I grew up with a lot of men like that. They're lovely. You know, I grew up with a lot of guys that love their wives. They may not say it, but they'll wash their wife's car. You know, they'll change the oil. They'll fix the leaky faucet. That's the way they communicate. And sometimes that's enough if somebody really knows you, and sometimes it's not. And I think that was part of the thing that I wanted to write in the book, is that, you know, you have to be able to communicate with the persons and the people that you love on their level, and so that they know where you're coming from. And so that was a lot of the book itself as well. It's, you know, a kind of a message that I was trying to get through.
Do you think that, I know with you being the writer, I thought as a reader that he wanted to be his own stable man and not be that mama's boy, because if he become that close to her, and then he had to have boundaries. To me, it was like for boundaries and also mama boy's sake, because then, you know, he's trying to do what is, you know, here for his wife. And at the same time, you might have those things where the wife and the mother, and he somehow makes him feel like he has to choose between. And so that could get very sticky, but it did seem like he didn't care about her, but he knew that she was a handful and he was not taking her mess. Here, mama, I'm just here that, you know, just gone. And she like, give him a smoke. I already got cancer. Give me that. You know, I love her. I just love her. I like, she like,
I had more fun.
About her.
I had more fun writing. I had more fun writing Ella than probably any character in the book. And she's just, like I said, she's just a handful. And she's, you know, she's like a lot of strong older women that I know. She just over everybody's mess. She's not here for style points. You know, she's saying what's on her mind. But, you know, yeah, their relationship I think some people describe it as difficult, and I think it is, but he does care about her. He does love her. You know, and like I said, that last conversation toward the end where he talks about the day his data came over and they picked blackberries and they made food, and, you know, they were a family. And, you know, he's hurting. But like you said, he's got to set boundaries because he has a strong wife in his life.
He does have a strong wife.
Respect, you know, and his children. He has to set boundaries, and so it's difficult. You know, I think a friend of mine told me one time that being a good writer is taking a character and like putting them in a tree and then throwing rocks at them, giving them difficult decisions to make. Bug has a lot of difficult decisions to make, and he doesn't always make the right decision, but it makes him, in my opinion, a very interesting character, a very charismatic character, because even though he's a heist man, a wheel man, a criminal, he's a man who can be violent. I find that people want to root for him because they want the best for him, which always touches me. It always touches my heart. And I've had people tell me that in person, like, I really want him to win because I think there's a good person inside of all that. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's just hard sometimes to get to. So
it is. Now, I like another character in there, Lou Ellen. What's the story about Lou Ellen? She's a quick one in there. Lou Ellen?
Yeah. I like Lou Ellen. I wanted to make.
She was a lesbian.
Yeah, she's a lesbian. She's the manager of a jewelry store. And she's someone who is sort of, we don't know a lot about her. She has secrets of her own. And she plays like I said, she's not in the book for long, but she plays a pivotal part in the book. I just wanted to talk about a character who has a multitude of things going on, but they're still human and they still fall for someone. They still have feelings, you know, and regardless of, what we find out about her later, her mistake, her weakness is that she falls for someone who does not have the same feelings, but she doesn't know that. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get your heart broken. You know, everybody's heart is fragile. And so I wanted to talk about that and just use that as a narrative plot device, but B, just a little humanity in it. For me, when I read, some crime novels are they don't delve beneath the surface sometimes. And it's just, violence, this, that, action. I really wanted the characters to breathe and have feelings and emotions, and even Ronnie and Reggie, even though they can be a handful, they are two brothers and they love each other. They care about each other. Their brotherly bond is strong. You don't have to like them, but you can respect that they do care about each other. And so I wanted all the characters to have that to a certain extent, that they're human, that you get to see them being strong and get to see them being afraid and get to see them being frustrated. And so whether it's Llewellyn or Jenny or the bad guys, even the bad guys in the book, I try to give them a little character development so that you get to see them just beyond just being bad guys. And so everybody gets a moment to shine.
Yeah, Lazy, he really did shine. And Lazy is, to me, Lazy and Bold, they kind of like similar personalities, that rough edge like. And then I want to go back to his oldest son, his boys. It was like I'm your father, you want to be like your father. He didn't seem like, to me as a reader, he did not want his son to be like him. But I like what his son said to him, to question him about his father. And that just kind of hit him like bricks in his chest. And he really didn't say anything. He didn't have a real answer for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think his sons, especially Javon, it's hard for Bug because I think he sees so much of himself in Javon. He sees so much of the bad things in it, and he doesn't want that. He says at one point he's talking to Kia, and I don't want to give anything away, but something happens, and him and Kia are talking about how to handle it.
Yeah.
And he tells her, it ain't Javon's fault. Violence is a Montage family tradition, and he feels
like
very
it's in their blood.
conflicted by that. Yeah, it runs in their blood, and he does not want that for his boys. He really doesn't. He wants them to live and excel in a regular life, not being heistmen. He tells, there's a conversation he has with Javon when he tells him about what it's like being a grown Black man in America, that you are saddled with other people's low expectations every day. And it's like you're running a race and everybody else has a head start. And that's the closest he comes to really opening up to anybody, is his son. And he doesn't want that life for him. And ultimately, for me as the writer, the decisions that Bug makes ultimately lead his family down the same path that he went down, the path he does not want them to go. And again, he makes decision after decision, some good, some bad, but they always affect the people that he loves the most. And I mean, part of that is good, trying to make an exciting story, but also part of that is me trying to express an idea that I have that, every time you make a decision in life, it's like you send ripples out in a pond, like when a rock hits the surface of a pond. And I think so many times we don't take into account that idea, that our decisions affect the ones we love, the ones we care about. I think everybody is genuinely wants to do the right thing, but we're also born as selfish creatures, and so sometimes we make a decision that is about our pleasure or our pain or our concern, not taking into account how it's going to affect everybody else. And so I wanted to use Bug as a sort of a symbol of that. Even though he's trying to do the right thing or what he thinks is the right reasons, those decisions have serious consequences.
And that's the thing too. I don't know whether to call you Mr. Cosby or S.A. Which one would you like?
You call me Sean. You call me Sean.
Sean.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it, a lot in the community of a Black man, he gets his stable identity of what manhood is from TV, from other people, and from things like that. And so I could see him talking to his son. But there was another scene, without giving a lot away, was when Ronnie and him came over and his son had to handle that. I was so afraid, and he handled that pretty well. I'm like, who did he look at to even, or is that his own blood, that own Montage blood running through his vein, that he handled that phone call like that? He was, that was pretty tough.
I think it's a combination. I think adults a lot of times think that we're hiding things from kids, But my mama used to say, little pitchers have big ears, you know. So, you know, Javon is picking up the conversations that his mom and his daddy are having. He's reading between the lines about what's going on. And he's learning, even though his daddy don't think he's teaching him, he's learning how his daddy would handle things of that nature. So even though Bug didn't explicitly say, if somebody comes over, you do A, B, and C, Javon's picking it up because he's seen how his daddy reacts. And I think, you know, I hope that readers can fill in the blanks there, because there have probably been times where Bug has been out with his son where someone has confronted him from his past, or someone that from his past wanted him to do something. And he's seen how his father can intimidate people, how people are justifiably sometimes afraid of his dad. And so even though Bug doesn't realize those things, Javon's been picking that up because kids pick that up. I was a kid. I did the same thing. And so, you know, I think, well, again, like I said, it goes back to those choices. You have to make the best choices, but you're teaching kids every single day, even if you don't think you are. You know, as a man or a woman, you're teaching your children how to behave, how to handle adversity, how to deal with issues. And even if you don't think you are. And so I wanted to sort of express that with the way Javon handles that particular situation without giving too much away. You know, and the same thing with Darren, his youngest son. Darren, you know, he's in that stage where his daddy can do no wrong. You know, his daddy's a Superman.
He loves his dad.
Daddy is Superman. Yeah, he loves his dad. Daddy is Superman to every little boy. So by the time you get about 12 or 13. And I wanted to show that. And it was really important to me to show Kia and Javon and Darren and Bug happy at points. I wanted to show them, despite their struggle, that they love each other. That's a family that love each other. Again, part of that is me wanting to send a message or express something. Another part of that is that the writer, the more you make people care about these characters, the more impact it has when unfortunate things happen. And so that draws the reader in even deeper into the story.
Yeah, because even in the hood, you know, like I said, I grew up in Chicago. I was in the suburbs, and still in the hood, you know, suburbs in a real poverty area. Even with that, the family dynamics might not look like yours. You know, people who are middle class or upper class, but needless to say, like, for example, hold on, I'm getting. Sorry about that. Even like in my neighborhood, there was this family. They were alcoholics, and it was like 3 girls, 2 sons, and the mama. And so even with that, they was drunk, but they was holding hands, walking down the street drunk together. And that was her family, and they took care of each other. And that was she took care of them, but you know, that was the dynamics of their family. And I see how you showed it in there, how that's what goes on. And even like in the beginning, you show like Darren, when he hears them saying cuss words and stuff, he come back laughing. He said, I know she probably cussed. She didn't say exactly what she said. And he just laughing real hard, and he knows. And so, yeah, those different things like that. And he really wasn't like one Bo that would just stay at home in the house. He wanted to make something for it. I think he really, really wanted to be that, again, that stable man for his family. And so he did what he, you know, could do. And so, yeah, I like this story. I really do. Like I said, it was really edgy and raw with language. And, you know, I was able to get through it. It was like really thick in all those different things that it showed in the book. You know, I thought it was going to be like, you know, when it said Best Getaway in Mississippi, I thought it was going to be a lot of, you know, down south stuff. But then when I seen it gave Bo and them, they still had power. It wasn't just that dominance of that Southern culture where they was like more like yes sir, messa, but you know, a little bit in there. But they, you know, stood their own.
I think too many times people don't understand that. You know, I grew up in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and that I tell people all the time. You know, there's this idea among some folks that the South belongs to good old boy Confederates, and that is nothing could be further from the truth. Every scrap of land down here that a Confederate apologist or a racist or a good old boy walks upon, somebody who looks like me has worked and died and bled on. This land, like I tell people, belongs to us just as much as it belongs to anybody else, you know? And so when I write to express that idea of the Black rural Southern experience. I had a conversation with somebody one time. If you indulge me, I'll tell the story. So I had a conversation with a guy from Philadelphia, and he's a writer. He said, man, I don't know how you live down south, man. I don't know how you do it. I said, yeah, I mean, it's different. It's difficult. And he said, man, I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. I said, well, you know, you got to look at it like this. You live in Philly. You live in an area that's 95% Black. You're surrounded by Black people. You have Black teachers. And so you have grown up in a different version of Black America than I have. I live in a world where I had to fight every single day. I told him this. I've been called the N-word 6 times in my life, and I whoop their ass every time. I said, that's the way that you have to do it, because if you don't, it's just like, it's like wolves smelling a weak deer. And I said, so we both have lived up and grown up as Black Americans in America, but grow up in the South, you can't be no punk. You've got to put your own 2 feet on the ground, especially nowadays. And so I wanted to also express that in the book with Bug, and how there's a scene in the book where some characters come to confront him about something. Can't say because it's a spoiler. And one of them starts to call him the N-word, and he busts him in the mouth with a wrench. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to show that African Americans that live in the South, there is this misconception that it's sort of this 1950s, 1960s, 1940s Jim Crow era. It's hard. It is tough. We deal with racism in a different way than other people do. But it also, at the end of the day, as my grandfather would say, we don't take too many wooden nickels. And so I wanted to show that with Bug and other characters that I write about, because there's a, you know, I love where I'm from. I love my hometown. I love my people. I love my uncles and my aunts. I grew up with very colorful characters. I like to say I grew up with backyard cookout philosophers and roughnecks and wild boys, and I love that. I love where I live, but at the same time, I'm also aware of the grotesqueness and the horror that exists down here. But I refuse to give the land of my birth over to people that don't respect me. So.
Because I know what, like I say, me, a Chicagoan, both parents, my mom from Liberty, Mississippi, my dad from Jackson, Mississippi. So we moved up north. So I was never born down there. No offense to my Mississippi people, but I'm glad I was never down there. I remember going every summer and, you know, didn't get too much stuff. Just my grandfather, they was in there, you know, he didn't let too many white people in his house because of that time. You know, you go to the door and it's like, are they white or Black? Granddaddy, they Black. Okay, let them in. You know, and I could remember that even though I was smaller. And I could also remember going down there, you know, the Mississippi girls, I'm from Chicago, and they see that I don't have mosquito bites on my legs. And you must be from Chicago or up north or something. You don't have no mosquito bites on your leg. I'm going, what? And so they were about to come, wanted to fight us. And they found out who my aunts were. They ran like flies running from you know, and I'm like, So I can't do South like you. I can do city country, but I can't do country. I just can't. So it's
like I said, it's the different experience. But I've traveled. I've had the opportunity to travel to Chicago, New York, Philadelphia. My writing has taken me a lot of different places that I never thought I would get to. And the thing that I find most when I do travel is that there are so many more similarities, you know, among African American folks than we think of differences. You know, if I go to New York and I see a brother and I tell him, man, you looking clean as new money. You know, there's a language that exists. They know what I'm talking about. We get it. You know, we just experience life in different ways. But I'm, you know, you know, if you look at my Twitter bio, it says country as hell, and I'm country. I'm not ashamed to be in Bama. I grew up hunting and fishing and stuff like that. But at the same time, that, you know, I also was like an honor roll student. I also was somebody who loved to read. I read voraciously. You know, you can be country and be educated. And so I love to have conversations with folks and talk about that experience. You know, like I think the history of arts in America is influenced by African Americans, regardless of their geography. You know, whether it's the Great Migration, everybody moved to Chicago or Philadelphia or Kansas City or New York, or whether there's folks that stayed there. And so for, you know, you got the Harlem Renaissance of the 20s with Langston Hughes and Countee Cullen and Zora Neale Hurston. But Zora Neale Hurston also would come back to South Carolina. You know, Alice Walker moved to New York, but she originally was born in Georgia. So we are more connected and more alike than we are different. And so when I wrote Blacktop Wasteland, I love getting my home people to read it, but I really love when somebody from New York or someone from another part of the country is like, oh man, I didn't think I'd recognize this book. I didn't think I'd get into this book, but I really dig it. I really understand what you're trying to say. And so that's a part of the mission, I feel, as a writer, to kind of articulate that. And so I even do that. The book I'm working on now is set in the South, and it's set. I'm working on a book right now. It's about the first Black sheriff in a small Southern town, and all the difficulties that entails. Yeah, whether he gets drama from the white folks who did not expect him to win, and sometimes he get drama from his brothers and sisters who feel like he's Uncle Tom, and so he's kind of stuck in the middle. And he's trying to change things, but some things happen, and he comes to a. Well, I'm working on it now, but I love talking about these issues. I love talking about these stories. But I'm just so incredibly moved and so incredibly humbled by the people who have connected with my work. It's incredibly moving to me. I grew up in very difficult circumstances. My mother was disabled. My mother and father separated when I was 5. We had to move in with my grandparents. We were very poor for a long time, but we were rich in love and spirit. And my mother, she's passed away. Yeah. My mother, she's passed away, but she gave me this love of reading. And so I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. And see, my mom is deaf. So I know sign language more than passable, but not as proficient as I should, but I'm conversational. So if someone's deaf, I can do that. But I want to ask you, the title of your book, Blacktop Wasteland, why title it Blacktop Wasteland?
It came from a conversation I had with a friend of mine years ago, a long time ago, when I was a high school student, and I couldn't wait to get out of my small town. I got to get out of here, man. I got to spread my wings. And a buddy of mine, he said, yeah, man, it feels like we're trapped in this wasteland. And he said, and the only way out is this blacktop road that seems to circle back and take us back. We always seem to come back to this. And that always stuck in my head. And so I wanted to use it as a metaphor for what Bug is going through. He's trapped in this image of who he thinks he should be, and is he Beauregard, this husband and father and business owner, this man who loves his wife, who loves his children, who loves his best friend, Kelvin, we hadn't really talked about, or is he Bug, this ruthless, unforgiving, dangerous outlaw, or is he somebody in the middle? And I think it's hard to answer that question until you read the book. But I wanted to use that title as sort of a metaphor for that. Because I think a lot of people feel trapped by expectations of either the expectation they put on themselves or expectation that other people foist upon them. And so that title kind of stuck around in my head and rang around in my head for a while. And so I was happy I was able to use. I was very lucky because when I sold the book, a lot of times publishers will they'll suggest you change the title. But they like the title, so we ran with it. And so it's
good.
It's been very gratifying.
Great. How I come to know about your book, I don't know if you know the writer, but I did. Her name is Vanessa Lilly, and she's white.
Yeah.
And she told me, she said that you would love his book, and she told me about your book. And so that's when I got it. And then I got the other one as well, which I wanted you to give us a little bit about that. And I did read that. But that's how I came about it. Vanessa Williams. I'm sorry, Vanessa Lilly. I'm just saying Williams because it's Vanessa. Yeah. Vanessa Lilly.
Yeah, I know.
I love her writing as well.
I met her a few years ago at a convention. She's a wonderful writer, wonderful person. And
I love her.
I'm so glad that she was able to. Yeah, she's an incredible writer. I'm so glad she was able to connect you with my work.
Yeah, I actually host her.
My other book.
Yep, I actually host her.
Okay.
I want to go back.
I'll talk about my next, I'll talk about my next book. Wreath Bay Tears came out in July of this year. Basically, Wreath Bay Tears is about two fathers, one black, one white, both ex-cons. The black father is a business owner. He owns a landscaping business. The white father is sort of, he's in between jobs. And unfortunately, what brings them together is their sons. Their sons were gay and were married, and then they're murdered. And neither one of these fathers were very close to their sons because of their sexuality. And so now that they've been murdered, these two men of violence, decide to investigate the crime, but it seems like the police have lost interest. And so as they're trying to achieve revenge and justice for their boys, they're also trying to redeem themselves for the way they treated their sons. And so it's a very, it's a heavy book, just like Blacktop. It's about grief and anger and redemption and class and race. And ultimately it's about accepting people on their own terms, and but I will give you a warning.
What's
it
the
is
warning?
very violent. It is
Okay.
very violent.
Very violent.
And the reason it's very violent is because I felt like I don't have any children of my own, but I have a niece that I raised that I love with all my heart. And I could feel myself going to a very dark place if somebody hurt her. And so I can only imagine what a father would feel if someone killed their son, regardless of their relationship with their son. And so these two guys are tough guys. They're older. They're like, I made them a little bit older than me. So I'm 46. So they're like 51, 55. So they're a little older, but they're tough dudes. They're not to be crossed. And so, it escalates very quickly, but also there's a lot of conversations in the book between these two men from very different backgrounds and how they get to understand each other and how they confront, the things about themselves that are not pretty and not good. But at the same time, they learn and they grow. And people seem to have connected with the book. I hope that when people read it, they'll read it with an open mind. I just feel like it was inspired by a relative of mine, a friend of mine. And he was somebody who came out late in life, and his parents, it didn't go well. And then his parents were both in a car accident. They didn't die, but they were injured. And the father came out of that, and he said, I'm going to make this work because I don't want something to happen to one of us and not be in each other's lives because of that. And so that inspired the book. And so it was a very emotional book to write for me. My mother was declining as I was writing the book. So the book is a lot about grief and acceptance. And she passed a little bit after the book was published. It's dedicated to her. And so but I hope people will take from the book. And it's also action-packed, like Blacktop Wasteland. So there's a lot of action. There's a lot of humor in the book. Yeah. There's a lot of humor in the book. For a book that's very serious, there are a lot of jokes. And I think it helps drive the story. But I just love telling stories. I love telling stories about the people I know, the people I grew up with. Everybody that I grew up with makes an appearance in my writing at one point or another, good or bad. So, but it's just it's my privilege. It's my privilege to be able to talk to people like you, to tell these stories, and for people to connect with my writing.
Thank you. And I do enjoy your writing, but Razor Blade Tears, that's cutting tears. So again, with the title, Razor Blade Tears, explain that. I know to me, that's cutting. This is not your sniffle and you get a whooping and you're in the corner. This is like worse than that. Those tears are coming down.
I came up with the title when I was thinking about the title and I was writing the book, and I said, it was, to me, the title it's trying to express, there's a pain so deep that when you cry, it feels like somebody slicing your face with a razor. A friend of mine told me, he said, when you lose a mate, they call you a widow. When you lose a parent, they call you an orphan. But when you lose a child, there's no name for that because it's such an unimaginable pain. Yeah. And so that's where the title came from. I said, a pain that's so deep, that cuts so deep, it feels like razor blades. And so and they let me keep that title too. So, thank you to the publisher. But I think for me, titles are important because I think the title is the first way you interact with the reader, and it's the first way you can grab the reader and bring them into your world. So I try to give titles a lot of energy when I come up with them. It takes me a while. It takes me a while. I work on them very hard, and I can't. This is a superstition on my part. I can't start writing the book until I got the right title. It's got to sound right to me. If it doesn't sound right, I can't fool with it. I gotta have it sounding right. So,
well, that is good.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you.
You are so welcome. But with this book here, remember I told you with Blacktop Wasteland, I heard about it from Vanessa. But with this book, it was recommended by Amazon to me. So I do a lot of reading. I'm on Amazon Prime and I write reviews as well. And so it just popped up from Amazon to try this book. And so I got the audio. So I was able to get the book I purchased. And then I didn't know that I had free audio credits. So I said, well, let me get the audio then. So now I got the audio.
I love the guy who does the audio version of my book.
Did he do both of them? The same guy that did
he did
one?
Both of them.
Oh, I love that.
His name is Adam Lazar White. He's an actor, a producer. I always love telling people, I wish my grandma was still alive because he was an actor on her favorite soap opera, Young and the Restless. And so, I'm just tickled pink that he's able to do the book. And also, he does such a good job with the voices. I didn't realize. I didn't realize how. No, it's not me.
Not that I heard your voice, but just looking at you, and I say, well, maybe that's his own voice.
No, he does such a good job with the books, man. I tell you, I didn't realize how creepy the character of Lazy was until I heard the audiobook. I was like, oh man, that's disturbing. The way he gave him this voice, just this very creepy, disturbing vibe. And so he's a fantastic artist, fantastic voice actor. I'm very lucky. I hope that I'm able to work with him on this upcoming book as well, because he's a great guy, very, very talented artist.
He did well, like all of those characters. And, he stayed true to each voice. So each character, he stayed in voice, if I could say it like that, or character to voice, whatever I'm trying to say. And I was like, they all had their different voice. And yeah, Lazy was a scary one. And then I did like Lou Ellen's voice. Lou Ellen, she's something else. I really like that. So it's almost over. You see how quick this show goes?
It went
Please
by.
tell everybody about us and do tell us about your experience with us. But if you could come back in January so we can read this first and then have you back with this one. I certainly like to have you back again and again and again if you can, but I really do like this. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Had audio to this one too. Hey, why not? It's a credit. So don't hate me for it, y'all that are listening. And I'm getting you're getting some hearts down there because there's a couple of people that purchased your book. When I told them about it on our site, our site is international, our page. So there's some people from overseas. Thank you for coming back again. I never could pronounce her name, but thank you for coming. And so we're international on our page. So your book is going around there. And there's some things on the board. Candace, she said that, earlier ago when she was talking about a character can be very violent. And then she loved Javon. Let's see what else. And she said Adam is great on audio, as Adam is great on audio. And so it's just been good. And our time has gone. And I enjoyed it. And I hope to see you back. Thank you again for those who just came on. This is the first book we're talking about, Blacktop Wasteland, S.A. Cosby. And before I show the book, is that a yes? Maybe you can make it back in January sometime or the end of February?
Do my best to come back. I will do my best to come back. I really enjoyed talking with you and I would love to come back. So we'll see. Hopefully my schedule will allow. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. If schedule allow, we'll get that schedule in and we'll be reading this. This will be one of our books. This In fact, this is our November book of the month. So this is our November book of the month, and we'll figure out how we split, but we'll still be reading it until we get there. And so Razor Blade Tears, if you guys heard it, do hear the replay about what this book is all about. And great cover, great book cover. So again, what would you like the folks to walk away with about from what they heard on Blacktop Wasteland? What do you want the people to walk away with?
The main thing I hope people take away from the book, that it's incredibly difficult to be the best version of yourself when everything seems to be working against you. And so when you read a character like Bug, you know, I like to say, come for the car chases, but stay for the internal drama, because I think that's what makes him an interesting character. And I think that's what ultimately is important in the book. And so I hope people take that from it. And I'm just, again, so incredibly humble and appreciative. You know, my life has changed since this book was published in ways I never would have imagined. You know, I used to work, I went from working 60 hours a week as a hardware store salesman to talking to Walter Mosley. So thank you to the readers, because without them, none of that would have happened. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Where can they reach you at?
I need to get a website, but I don't have one yet. But if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter. My handle is Black Lion King 73. You can find me on Twitter, running my mouth, talking trash. And you can also find me on Facebook at S.A. Cosby Author. I love talking to folks that read the book. I love hearing about their experiences, and I love just running my mouth. So definitely hit me up. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, do tell us about our page, ESP Presents. Let us know how you felt about tonight. And we do look forward to reading your other books. Thank you so much for a great drama-filled, I don't know if I'd say country with strong black men. I know you like that strong black men.
Yeah.
And all your characters,
Thank you so much.
even though they might have been minor and some may have been strong characters, but everybody played a great strong role. So that was a great cast. So thank you for that.
Thank you
and
so
we
much.
look forward to seeing you next time.
All right.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a great evening. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for coming. All right. Bye-bye. So you guys that are here tonight, we had our guest, S.A. Cosby, and he came, and his is Blacktop Wasteland. We had a wonderful time with that. So whatever fits his schedule, he'll be back again as his schedule permits. We'll talk about Razor Blade Tears. So you guys would have to look at that replay and see what this book is all about. And then we have our December book of the month, and that is Child Bride. We want to bring great readers. That's why we say ESP Presents, where we bring page turners your way. We hope to bring something that you haven't read before. And this is our book. I'll try to hold up real slow. The light, let me bring it back some. And this is Child Bride. And this talks about a 14-year-old girl, Nell Bears. She witnessed to a world that embraced the opposition of women. She married off to when she turned 16, and the husband she has, he is very mean, and plus she learned very fast how to become a wife and of an abusive man, and she also have children. And then stay tuned, guys. Yes, Daniel Black will be live. We're going to talk to him. I'm going to show you guys his book. He is our December 21st show at 8 p.m. All shows are 8 p.m. We're going to talk about his book, The Coming. And this is a wonderful book. It is The Coming, tells the story of peoples captured and sojourned from their homeland across the Middle Passage. So you guys will love that. If you haven't had a Daniel Black book, you really want to read it. I love all of his books. I told him, I said, I'm gonna have to really catch up. So he's gonna be back again, and then he'll be back another time. He'll have another book, and we'll see how that fits his schedule. And that one is gonna be Don't Cry for Me. So we'll see him back quite a few times. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you, our international people that are showing, do swipe and share, and tell folks about our show and what we do here at ESP Presents. And if you are an author and you would like for your book to be on our pages, do inbox us here or tag yourself on here so we'll know about your book, so that the readers will know what is going on in your lovely pages. And we just look forward to that. Again, thank you all for being here tonight, Candace and our overseer. I'm so sorry I can't get that name. And ESZ, thank you so much. I'm sorry I cannot say your name. I wish I could pronounce it better, but thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back and joining us. It's always good to see you. Candace, good to see you here. Yes, Daniel Black will be back again. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And we will see him here. Thank you for the hearts. And I will be seeing you guys. Good night. And do swipe and share and tell the folks about us. Thank you so much. And our next show, as I said, will be December 21st. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Ellen Sutter, ESP Presents, signing off. Thank you.